Last night was the final episode of Jodie Whittaker's time in Doctor Who. As this is the first episode to air since I started my channel, I thought I'd start by going through some of my favourite moments from the last few years of the show. So, on to the power of the Doctor. Why is it called that? Absolutely no idea. It gets off to a bad start with some really bad CGI in the scene where the TARDIS crew board the space train. This sets the tone for most of the episode. A big flashy action sequence with very little explanation and continuity references that only the most devoted fans will get. Still, it does provide a good excuse to write out John Bishop as Dan. Really, he should have left at the end of the last episode. After the opening credits, we got the return of Ace and Tegan, as promised by all the trailers. As a child of the 80s, they were my companions growing up, and I was definitely looking forward to seeing them again. And they did not disappoint. Sophie Aldred fit right in as an older, tougher version of Ace, and I think it's about time she got her own spin-off series. She had great chemistry with Graham, so perhaps Bradley Walsh could join her. Together they could be the next Sarah Jane Smith and K9. Janet Fielding was somewhat stiffer in the role, but she definitely brought back some of Tegan's defining characteristics, and considering she hadn't acted for several decades, she did a pretty good job. Sacha Dhawan came back as the Master. For some reason, his plan involved travelling back in time to 1916 and calling himself Rasputin. Or possibly he killed the real Rasputin and took his place. It's very hard to tell. In fact, that whole plotline didn't make a lot of sense. It seemed to be just there so that the Master could sing along to Rah Rah Rasputin, which was just one of the many callbacks to the Russell T Davies era in this episode. Still, he was definitely one of the best actors to come out of this era. He gave it 100% in every scene, and he's clearly going to go on to better things. Amazingly, there were quite a few surprise returns that hadn't been leaked, so Chris Chibnall's policy of secrecy finally paid off. The scene in the Doctor's mind where she meets a bunch of old Doctors was genuinely gobsmacking. Not least because it's the sort of thing that used to happen in the New Adventures novels, so it was great to see it finally happen in live action. The best scenes were when Tegan and Ace got to have one final scene with each of their respective Doctors, which was far more emotional than anything that happened with Yaz. And right at the end they bring back a bunch of old companions, including 97-year-old William Russell, which was pretty incredible, and very fitting too as it was the 100th anniversary of the BBC. You'll notice I haven't said much about the plot yet. Well, as with much of Chris Chibnall's stories, it was pretty incomprehensible. Really, he was playing it safe, bringing back all the big hitters, Master, the Daleks and Cybermen, and having them team up in a plot to destroy the world, though in practice it was really just the Cybermen invading Unit HQ, and Daleks hanging around at the base of a volcano. It's one of those invasions where the vast majority of the planet don't actually know it happened. So I guess we should talk about Jodie Whittaker. She's not one of my favourite Doctors, partly because the writing has been pretty bad for most of the time, but she's also a bit too nice for my liking. I prefer Doctors with a bit of an edge. Jodie has always just seemed more like a daft auntie than a proper Doctor. And it's not because she's a woman. There's plenty of female actors who would be incredible as the Doctor. Jo Martin proved that in her brief appearances. But having said that, she is very much a modern day equivalent of Peter Davison's Doctor, who was just a straight up decent guy. And he was my favourite Doctor for a long time. So I can see why Jodie has her fans. Mandip Gill as Yaz also left in this episode. The last time we learned that she was in love with the Doctor. This time you may have been hoping for more development on that front. But no, we got absolutely nothing. Not even one last kiss. Even Captain Jack got that. But it's typical really, there's a lot of loose ends of this era that will almost certainly never be followed up on. From Tech2 to the Timeless Child, to the Fugitive Doctor and the Vision. Chris Chibnall is very good at coming up with ideas, not so much at following them through. It's all very frustrating. After everything that came before it, the final regeneration into David Tennant came as absolutely no surprise. It's a shame his specials have already been filmed. They don't even air for another 13 months. Surely they could have arranged the schedule to keep it a surprise. But what actually happens in next year's 60th anniversary specials is another question. For the 60th anniversary special, you would expect things like old Doctors and companions coming back, all the big villains teaming up, unexpected regenerations, but we already got all of that in this episode. So what Russell T Davies has lined up for the next one is anyone's guess. Still, despite, or perhaps because of all the fan service, this was probably the best episode we've had in a very long time. It won't win any new fans, but then I guess it wasn't really trying. For the long-term fans like myself, it was a real treat. So thanks for watching. In the 13 months before the next episode, I'll be carrying on my series on classic Doctor Who. Check out the description for the playlist of all the videos so far. In a few weeks I'll be putting out my video of Season 7, John Pertwee's debut story. So if you don't want to miss that, subscribe, or just press the like button. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.